I don't live in Hollywood now.
Where do you live?
I live, in Arizona and, all over the place. So,
You know his face. You've seen him break arms and kick down doors in dozens of action movies. Steven Seagal was once one of the biggest names in Hollywood, a martial arts master who seemed unstoppable. But today, at 73 years old, his story has become something nobody expected. What happened to the man who once stood at the top of the world? The answer is more tragic than you could ever imagine. Let's go back to the beginning, to a time when Steven Seagal was living a dream that most people could only fantasize about. Born in Michigan in 1952, Steven wasn't always the tough guy we came to know on screen. As a young man, he was fascinated by martial arts and Eastern philosophy. While other American kids were playing baseball and dreaming about normal careers, Steven had his eyes set on something completely different. He wanted to master the ancient art of Aikido, a Japanese martial art that focuses on using an opponent's energy against them. In his 20s, Steven did something incredibly bold. He packed his bags and moved all the way to Japan. This wasn't just a vacation or a short trip. He actually lived there for many years, studying Aikido seriously and immersing himself in Japanese culture. He didn't just learn the moves. He lived and breathed the philosophy behind the martial art. He trained under real masters, the kind of people who had dedicated their entire lives to perfecting their craft. And Steven was good at it, really good. In fact, he became so skilled that he eventually opened his own dojo, his own martial arts school, right there in Japan. This was a huge accomplishment, especially for a foreigner. Not many Westerners could say they ran a successful martial arts school in Japan. But Steven had bigger dreams waiting for him back in America. By the late 1980s, he had returned to the United States and was running a martial arts school in Los Angeles. Hollywood was right there, just waiting to discover someone like him. And that's exactly what happened. A Hollywood agent noticed Steven and saw something special in him. He wasn't just another martial artist. He had this unique presence, this quiet intensity that seemed perfect for action movies. In 1988, Steven got his big break with a movie called Above the Law. This wasn't just another action film. It was different because Steven brought real martial arts to the screen, not the flashy, choreographed stuff that looked fake. His Aikido moves were smooth, powerful, and brutally effective. Audiences loved it. Almost overnight, Steven Seagal became a household name. Movie studios couldn't get enough of him. In the early 90s, he was absolutely everywhere. Hard to Kill came out in 1990 and was a massive success. Then came Marked for Death, Out for Justice, and perhaps his most famous film, Under Siege, in 1992. Under Siege was a huge blockbuster that made over $100 million. Steven was now one of the top action stars in the world, standing right alongside guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. He had the tough guy image, the martial arts skills that were actually real, and movies that people lined up to watch. Life couldn't have been better. Steven seemed to have everything: fame, fortune, respect, and a career that looked like it would last forever. He was making millions of dollars per movie. Fans around the world idolized him. He was a hero who always won, the guy who could walk into any dangerous situation and come out on top. For a few golden years, Steven Seagal was living the dream that every action star hopes for. But here's where things started to change, and not in a good way. Success is a funny way of affecting people. And for Steven, fame seemed to bring out some troubling qualities. Stories began to surface about what he was really like behind the scenes. People who worked with him on movie sets started talking, and what they said wasn't pretty. There were reports that Steven could be difficult to work with, demanding special treatment and acting like he was above everyone else. Some crew members said he was arrogant and refused to listen to directors or take advice from anyone. When you're a huge star making millions, sometimes people put up with difficult behavior because they want the movie to succeed. But these stories started piling up, one after another. Then things got even darker. Multiple women came forward with very serious accusations against Steven. They claimed he behaved inappropriately toward them, crossing lines that should never be crossed. Some of these allegations involve harassment, unwanted advances, and making women feel unsafe and uncomfortable. These weren't just random rumors either. Some very credible people spoke out, including well-known actresses who had worked with him. One particularly disturbing lawsuit detailed alleged incidents that painted a picture of someone who abused his power and position in Hollywood. These accusations were heartbreaking to hear because they suggested that behind the hero image on screen, there might have been someone who treated people, especially women, very badly. Hollywood started to distance itself from Steven. When serious allegations like these come out, the industry tends to back away quickly. Movie offers started drying up. The big budget films stopped coming. Studios didn't want the controversy that came with hiring him. His reputation, which had once been built on being a tough but honorable hero, was now seriously damaged. The same town that had embraced him and made him a star was now closing its doors. Steven's response to these allegations didn't help matters either. Instead of addressing them seriously or showing real remorse, he often seemed dismissive or made excuses. This made people even more upset with him. When someone is accused of serious wrongdoing, how they respond matters a lot. People wanted to see accountability, some sign that he understood the gravity of what he was being accused of, but that never really came. This damaged his reputation even further and made it nearly impossible for him to rebuild his career in Hollywood. As his Hollywood career crumbled, Steven made some very strange choices about where to take his life next. One of the most surprising turns came with his relationship with Russia, and specifically with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Steven became an outspoken supporter of Putin and Russia, which confused and shocked many of his fans. In 2016, Putin actually granted Steven Russian citizenship. Think about how unusual that is. Here's an American action star, born and raised in the United States, now becoming a citizen of Russia and publicly supporting a government that many Americans and Western countries have serious problems with. Steven didn't just quietly accept Russian citizenship. He actively promoted Russia and defended Putin's policies. He made statements supporting Russian actions that were controversial on the world stage. He appeared at events in Russia, was photographed with Putin multiple times, and seemed to fully embrace this new identity. To many people watching from the outside, this was bizarre. Why would someone who made their fortune in America, who became famous playing American heroes in movies, suddenly turn around and align himself so closely with Russia? Some people thought maybe he was looking for acceptance somewhere, anywhere, after Hollywood had rejected him. Others thought he genuinely believed in what he was saying. Either way, it alienated even more his fans and made him an even more controversial figure. The Russian connection also came with practical consequences. With Russia's actions in Ukraine and increased tensions between Russia and the West, Steven's vocal support for Putin made him extremely unpopular in many circles. Some countries reportedly banned him from entering. His pro-Russia stance wasn't just a personal opinion anymore. It became part of his public identity, and not in a good way. The man who once played patriotic American heroes was now being seen by many as someone who had turned his back on his own country. During the same period, Steven also claimed to have connections with law enforcement and even worked as a reserve deputy sheriff in Louisiana for a while. He had his own reality TV show called Steven Seagal Lawman, which showed him supposedly doing real police work. But even this became controversial. There were questions about how much actual police work he was really doing versus how much was just for the cameras. Then came a truly terrible incident. During a police raid that Steven participated in for his show, someone's home was damaged and pets were killed. A lawsuit followed, and the whole thing became another black mark on his reputation. What was supposed to make him look like a real hero, instead, made him look reckless and insensitive. Let's talk about his personal life too, because that's been just as messy as his career. Steven has been married 4 times and has 7 children. His relationships have been rocky and complicated. His first marriage was to a woman he met in Japan. Then he married actress Adrienne LaRussa, but that marriage was apparently annulled. His third marriage was to actress Kelly LeBrock, and they had 3 children together. That marriage ended badly too. His current wife is a woman from Mongolia, and they've been together for a number of years. But even that relationship has raised eyebrows because of the significant age difference and questions about the circumstances of how they met. With 7 children from different relationships, Steven's family life has been complicated. Some of his children have followed in his footsteps and tried careers in entertainment, but they've also had to deal with having a father whose reputation is so controversial. It can't be easy being Steven Seagal's child, knowing that when people hear your last name, they might immediately think of all the negative stories surrounding your father. His health has also become a topic of discussion in recent years. If you look at Steven now compared to his action hero days, the change is dramatic. He's gained quite a bit of weight and no longer has that lean, dangerous look that made him so intimidating in his early films. He's in his 70s now, and age has caught up with him like it does with everyone. But beyond just normal aging, there have been questions about his overall health and fitness. The man who once performed all his own stunts and moved with incredible speed and precision now moves much more slowly. Some recent videos of him have gone viral, but not for good reasons. People have commented on how different he looks and moves, and it's honestly sad to see how much things have changed. His more recent movies tell another sad part of the story. Steven hasn't stopped making films, but the quality and scale have dropped dramatically. Instead of big Hollywood productions shown in thousands of theaters, he now makes direct-to-video movies that most people have never heard of. These films have tiny budgets, unknown casts, and often look cheaply made. He still plays the tough guy hero, but the magic is gone. Reviews are usually terrible, and very few people actually watch these movies. It's a far cry from the days when a Steven Seagal movie was a major event that everyone talked about. The saddest part might be that Steven himself doesn't seem to fully understand or accept how far he's fallen. In interviews, he sometimes talks as if he's still the major star he was 30 years ago. He makes grand claims about his accomplishments, some of which have been questioned or proven false. He's claimed to have trained top fighters, worked with elite military units, and done all sorts of incredible things that people who were actually there have disputed. This disconnect from reality makes him seem more tragic. It's like watching someone live in the past, unable to face the present. There have also been financial troubles. Reports have surfaced over the years about Steven owing money, facing lawsuits over unpaid debts, and having various financial disagreements. For someone who once commanded millions per film, having money problems is another sign of how completely things have fallen apart. The wealth he accumulated during his peak years seems to have disappeared, spent on legal fees, settlements, failed business ventures, or just poor financial management. His legacy in martial arts, which should have been his lasting gift to the world, is also complicated. While nobody can take away the fact that he did reach a high level in Aikido and helped popularize it in America, his behavior has tarnished even that achievement. Some in the martial arts community have distanced themselves from him because they don't want to be associated with the controversies. The martial art of Aikido emphasizes harmony, respect, and using force only when necessary to defend. Many people feel that Steven's personal conduct goes against these very principles. So even the one area where he should be respected without question has been damaged by his actions and choices. When you look at the complete picture of Steven Seagal's life, it's genuinely tragic. This is a man who had absolutely everything. He had talent, success, fame, wealth, and the adoration of millions of fans around the world. He was living a life that most people can't even dream of. But through a combination of his own choices, his treatment of others, and his inability to grow or change as a person, he lost it all. Not slowly, not gracefully, but in a way that left wreckage behind. The tragedy isn't just that his career ended. Careers end for everyone eventually. The tragedy is how it ended and what he became. The allegations of mistreating women, the strained political alliances, the inflated claims about himself, the disconnect from reality, the damaged relationships, the financial troubles, all of it adds up to a picture of someone who had the world in his hands and let it slip away. Worse, he hurt people along the way. The women who came forward with allegations carry those experiences with them. The people he worked with who felt disrespected and mistreated remember that. The fans who looked up to him and felt betrayed when they learned the truth about his character, they remember too. At 73 years old, Steven Seagal is still alive, still making his low-budget movies, still giving interviews where he talks about his glory days. But he's become a cautionary tale more than anything else. He's a reminder that talent and success mean nothing if you don't treat people with respect and dignity. He shows us that you can have all the physical power in the world, but still end up powerless if you lose people's respect and trust. His story teaches us that fame is fragile, and that the way you treat others when you're on top will determine whether anyone stands with you when you fall. Some people might feel sorry for Steven. After all, he's an old man now, and everyone deserves some compassion in their later years. But it's hard to feel too sorry for someone who had every opportunity to be different, to be better, and chose not to take those opportunities. He could have apologized sincerely. He could have made amends. He could have worked to become a better person. But instead, he doubled down on his behavior, made strange alliances, and continued to live in a reality that doesn't match the world everyone else sees. The story of Steven Seagal is heartbreaking not because of what happened to him, but because of what he did to himself. It's the tragedy of wasted potential, of squandered opportunities, of a man who could have been remembered as a legend but will instead be remembered for all the wrong reasons. When young actors or martial artists look at his career now, they don't see a role model. They see a warning about what not to do, about how not to treat people, about how success can be destroyed by your own actions. As Steven Seagal lives out his 70s, surrounded by the memories of what once was, we're left to think about what could have been. If he had been humble, if he had treated people with respect, if he had listened to criticism and grown as a person, he could still be celebrated today. His films would be shown on television with pride instead of as late-night jokes. Martial artists would speak his name with reverence instead of disappointment. His children could be purely proud of their father instead of having to deal with his complicated legacy. But that's not the reality we live in. Instead, we have the sad, complicated, troubling story of a man who flew too close to the sun and then couldn't understand why his wings melted. The tragedy of Steven Seagal is that it was all so preventable. Every step of the way, he had choices. He chose how to treat people. He chose how to respond to criticism. He chose what alliances to make and what values to stand for. And at 73, he's living with the consequences of all those choices. For those of us watching from the outside, his story serves as a powerful reminder about character, about how we treat others, and about the fact that real strength isn't about how hard you can punch or kick. Real strength is about being a good person, treating others with kindness and respect, and having the courage to admit when you're wrong and try to do better. That's the lesson in Steven Seagal's tragic story. Not everyone will listen to it, but it's there for anyone willing to see it. And as his career fades further into memory and his legacy becomes more complicated with each passing year, that lesson becomes clearer and sadder with each telling. If this story made you think, if it reminded you about what really matters in life, then make sure you hit that like button right now. Share this video with your friends and family, because these are the kinds of stories we all need to learn from. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the lives of people who shaped our culture for better or worse. Your support means everything to us, and it helps us keep bringing you content that makes you think and feel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.